In a scary moment as we went to commercial, Sophie Cunningham hit the floor hard. And Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I got to tell you, this victory, it came with a big price.
Look at today's game where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out.
Sophie Cunningham was flat out targeted by a dirty player.
I'd say there's a near 0% chance that Sophie Cunningham plays again this year.
In what can only be described as a nightmare scenario that unfolded before our very eyes, Sophie Cunningham hit the floor with such devastating force that the entire WNBA world collectively held its breath. The sound of impact echoed through the arena like a gunshot, and in that terrifying moment, everyone knew something catastrophic had just happened. The tough-as-nails defender who never backs down from anyone, the player who's been holding the Indiana Fever together with nothing but heart and determination.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down. So let's break down the play where Sophie got hurt. So as you can see here, Bria Hartley is going baseline. Kelsey Mitchell is guarding her. And then Sophie comes over to help. And then Bria Hartley falls on her leg. And Sophie immediately grabs like her shin area.
They went at Sophie Cunningham early. And considering this is Bria Hartley, I'm not ruling out that she jumped through her knee. Considering who it is, I'm not. Like, Bria Hartley has been ejected multiple times. She's yanked Angel by the hair. This is the Connecticut Sun. This is a team that have jumped through players' knees before.
Bria Hartley has had dirty plays all season. But you got to know who we're talking about. Bria Hartley is the same girl that pulled Angel Reese out of there by her ponytail just last game, I think 2 days ago. She pulls Becca Allen by her head to the floor, and Ariel Atkins goes over there to protect her teammate. Bria Hartley has been doing dirty things for all season. She's been
suddenly writhing in agony on the hardwood, clutching her knee while tears streamed down her face. And if you think this is just another routine injury report, think again, because what I'm about to tell you will shake you to your core. This wasn't just any player going down. This was Sophie Cunningham, the absolute heartbeat of a Fever team that's been fighting for their playoff lives all season long. The woman who stepped up when Caitlin Clark went down, who became the defensive anchor this franchise desperately needed, who transformed herself from a role player into the glue that holds everything together. And now, in one horrifying instant, she's been taken away from them in the most brutal fashion imaginable. The basketball gods, it seems, have officially declared war on the Indiana Fever, and Sophie Cunningham
didn't look like we had any business beating this Connecticut Sun team. For 25 minutes, we looked like the worst team on the court. Defensive rotations, Marina hitting the three, Sanaya Rivers taking it to the rim, Tina Charles, Aaliyah Edwards, out-rebounding AB, Natasha Howard. But we came alive when we needed to come alive. We forced overtime. Kelsey Mitchell, back-to-back threes in OT. Lexi Hull, dagger three, putting the nail in the coffin.
I'm so proud of you guys. I know that sometimes it sounds like just a word when we talk about being resilient, but it's not, man. It's how we live. Yep. It's how y'all live, and it's a tribute to you. It's a tribute to your connectedness, your togetherness, your toughness, your mindset. You never give up gritty attitudes. Like, that's what it takes. That's what it takes, and we will never be counted out, because that is worth gold.
Cunningham just became their latest casualty in what can only be described as the most cursed season in recent memory. Let me paint you the picture of how this absolute disaster unfolded, because the details will make your blood boil. The Fever were facing off against the Connecticut Sun, a team that's been struggling at the bottom of the standings, but has built a reputation for playing with the kind of physical intensity that crosses the line into dangerous territory. Sophie was doing what she always does, providing help defense and showing the kind of hustle that's made her indispensable to this Indiana squad. Kelsey Mitchell was guarding Bria Hartley on a baseline drive, and Sophie rotated over to offer support, just like she's done hundreds of times before. But here's where this story takes a sinister turn. Bria Hartley, a player who's been building a reputation as one of the dirtiest competitors in the league, came crashing into Sophie's planted leg with the force of a freight train.
She was on the ground. She was crying. She was yelling. It definitely seemed like she was in a ton of pain. The training staff went over to her. They went to commercial break. Like, it was a real injury. This wasn't something, and Sophie's the type of player, a lot of times when she does get injured, she just gets right back up. She tries to walk it off. This was something that kept her down, and it was so hard to see. It is ironic because Bria Hartley has been in multiple scuffles this year with the Connecticut Sun. A lot of people would categorize her as a dirty player.
She roughs house. And Kathy Engelberg, this is why I say you wonder why there's so many goddamn injuries all over the league, because you are allowing people to play rugby and football and do UFC moves in the middle of a basketball game. In the beginning of this game, Sophie Cunningham is bringing the ball up the floor. She gets mugged, hit upside the head, knocked to the floor while dribbling the ball up the floor 75 feet away from the rim. Do you think the refs called anything?
Both Sophie's sister, I believe, and her mother both tweeted about this play. Now, Lindsay, her sister, said, WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. And then Paula, who I think is her mom, that's what the internet is saying, she said Hartley is a disgruntled player, having trouble everywhere she goes. She's plain mean and plays out.
This wasn't some accidental collision or unfortunate basketball play. This was Hartley, the same player who pulled Angel Reese down by her ponytail just days earlier, the same competitor who yanked Becca Allen to the floor by her head, continuing her season-long pattern of reckless and dangerous play. The impact was so violent, so clearly avoidable, that you have to wonder if this was just another calculated move by a player who's been getting away with rugby tactics all season long. The immediate aftermath was absolutely heartbreaking to witness. Sophie, this tough-as-nails defender who usually bounces right back up from contact, was suddenly grabbing her shin and knee area, her face contorted in the kind of pain that tells you something serious just happened. The tears came immediately, not from frustration or anger, but from the kind of physical agony that makes grown athletes cry out for help. This is a player who's built her entire identity around being unbreakable, around walking off injuries that would sideline other players, and seeing her completely overwhelmed by pain-sent shockwaves through everyone watching. The training staff rushed onto the court as the arena fell into that eerie silence you only hear when something truly terrible has occurred. Sophie couldn't put any weight on her leg, had to be helped off the court by trainers and teammates, and the look in her eyes told the entire story. This wasn't a
Connecticut Sun, by the way, if you guys have seen, they've done a lot, they have done a lot of reckless things in this game that haven't led to fouls. I don't think this is... I hope this isn't reckless. I can't rule out it being reckless. I hope it's not reckless. But at the same time, like, the referees... There were so many situations earlier on in the game that, in fairness, that the referees were letting away with. The referees thought, okay, yeah, let's tee up Sophie Cunningham straight away in the game. And that's going to, that's keeping the game in control. But from minute one, the Connecticut Sun... how many times have the Connecticut Sun against the Fever dove through people's knees? Multiple times this team has.
You guys brag about how physical. You guys wear it like a badge of honor. We're here to watch basketball. If we want to watch wrestling, we'll watch wrestling. If we want to watch fighting, we'll watch fighting. We're here to watch basketball. And Bria Hartley is no different than Dejanay Carrington. It's just nobody talks about it because she's on a
minor bump or bruise that she'd shake off by the next quarter. This was potentially season-ending, career-altering damage caused by a player who's been allowed to operate with impunity all year long. And the response from Sophie's family tells you everything you need to know about how preventable this entire situation was. Her sister Lindsay took to social media with a scathing message that called out the WNBA's pathetic officiating standards, saying the league should focus less on finding players for criticizing refs and more on hiring officials who can actually protect their athletes. Her mother Paula didn't mince words either, calling Hartley a disgruntled player who's been causing trouble everywhere she goes, describing her as plain mean and completely out of control.
As the games went along, by a landslide, the best addition we had on this roster. From her play, her shot making, her defense, the intensity she brings, the energy, her having Caitlin Clark's back and actually being willing to fight and scrap when nobody else would hold Caitlin Clark down. Sophie Cunningham said, you know what? I got you. Now she's done. The best addition we had all season.
She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. Like, she is somebody who is...
Here's what makes this injury so much more devastating than just losing another player. Sophie Cunningham has been the best addition to this Fever roster all season long. The one bright spot in what's been an injury-plagued nightmare from start to finish. She's been averaging over 12 points per game while shooting better than 50% from three-point range, providing the kind of veteran leadership and defensive intensity that you simply cannot replace with some random player off the street. But more than the statistics, she's been the emotional core of this team during Caitlin Clark's extended absence, the player willing to get in opponents' faces when they try to intimidate her teammates, the defender who's transformed Indiana's identity from soft to scrappy. The timing couldn't possibly be worse for a Fever team that's already been decimated by injuries all season long. Caitlin Clark has missed 13 consecutive games with a groin injury. Sydney Colson is done for the year with a torn ACL. Ari McDonald is finished with a broken foot, and now Sophie potentially joins a growing list of casualties. This team has been reduced to signing players off the street just to field a competitive roster, and losing their defensive anchor at this crucial point in the playoff race could be the final nail in the coffin. But here's where this story takes the most incredible turn imaginable, because what happened next defied every law of physics and probability that exists in basketball. Instead of folding under the weight of losing their emotional leader and falling behind by 21 points, the Indiana Fever decided to write one of the most remarkable comeback stories in the history of professional basketball. Led by Kelsey Mitchell, who apparently channeled every ounce of fury and determination from watching her teammate get hurt, Indiana embarked on a second-half performance that will be talked about for decades. Mitchell's transformation was nothing short of supernatural. After managing just 4 points in the first half while watching his team fall apart around him, he absolutely exploded for 34 points in the second half and overtime, finishing with a career-high 38 total points that stands as the highest-scoring game by any player in the entire WNBA this season. But these weren't empty stats padded in garbage time. This was a complete takeover during the most pressure-packed moments imaginable, with Mitchell scoring all 10 of Indiana's overtime points, including back-to-back three-pointers that essentially put the game away. The statistical dominance was mind-blowing. Mitchell went 11 for 22 from the field, 5 for 8 from three-point range, and 11 for 12 from the free throw line, while also dishing out 6 assists and grabbing 4 rebounds. After missing all 3 of his three-point attempts in the first half, he went a perfect 5 for 5 from beyond the arc in the second half and overtime, making contested shots with defenders draped all over him during the most crucial possessions of the game. This performance didn't just break individual records. It placed Mitchell in exclusive company with Diana Taurasi as the only players in WNBA history with multiple games featuring 35 or more points, 6 or more assists, and 5 or more three-pointers. The fact that this happened during the most crucial game of Indiana's season, with their playoff hopes hanging in the balance and their roster decimated by injuries, makes it even more remarkable. But Mitchell didn't accomplish this miracle alone. The supporting cast that stepped up around him deserves equal credit for refusing to surrender when everything seemed hopeless. Odyssey Sims, who was just signed to a hardship contract and making her first start for Indiana, contributed 19 points and 7 assists while providing veteran leadership. Aaliyah Boston stuffed the stat sheet with 14 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in her most complete performance of the season. Natasha Howard added 18 crucial points, while Lexi Hull delivered the dagger three-pointer with 44 seconds remaining in overtime that essentially sealed the victory. The coaching brilliance of Stephanie White cannot be overlooked in this comeback story. Despite having a severely limited roster to work with, she found the right rotations and matchups, made strategic substitutions that kept fresh legs on the court, and showed the kind of faith in her players that championship coaches demonstrate. Her decision to start Sims and trust her with significant minutes paid off tremendously, while her choice to stick with Mitchell even when his shots weren't falling in the first half showed incredible confidence in her superstar. From a technical standpoint, this comeback was a masterclass in execution under pressure. The Fever shot just 30% in the first half and missed all 10 of their three-point attempts, but responded by shooting 46% overall and 7 for 12 from beyond the arc in the second half. They out-rebounded Connecticut 14-7 on the offensive glass and forced the extra possessions needed to complete such a dramatic rally. This victory represents far more than just one regular season win for the Indiana Fever. It's proof that this team possesses the championship-level character and resilience necessary to overcome any obstacle thrown in their path. They improved to 19-16 with the win, sitting 2.5 games ahead of the 9th-place Los Angeles Sparks, with just 9 games remaining in the regular season. More importantly, they proved to themselves and everyone else that they can overcome any adversity when they play with heart and determination. The uncertainty surrounding Sophie's injury status remains the biggest concern moving forward, as she's scheduled for an MRI to determine the extent of the damage to her right knee. The fact that she was in visible pain and couldn't put weight on the leg doesn't bode well for a quick return, and Indiana simply cannot afford to lose another key player for an extended period. The broader implications of this injury epidemic raise serious questions about player safety and league oversight that demand immediate attention. What Kelsey Mitchell accomplished in those final 30 minutes of game time will be studied and celebrated for years to come, representing the kind of mental fortitude that separates true superstars from ordinary players. This wasn't just about scoring points. It was about completely taking over every aspect of the game when it mattered most, showing the basketball IQ and situational awareness that championship teams require. Sometimes the most inspiring victories don't come from perfect circumstances, but from finding a way to overcome impossible odds through sheer force of will and determination. This Indiana Fever comeback, built on the foundation of Sophie Cunningham's sacrifice and Kelsey Mitchell's brilliance, represents everything that makes basketball the beautiful, unpredictable sport we love. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, when injury strikes and hope seems lost, true champions find a way to rise above and create magic that will be remembered forever.